Hello, Shalom. Hello, Aflo. Hello, hello. Almost Shabbat Shalom. Hello, hello. How does it flow? Hello, everyone. Today, how are you today in comparison to yesterday? How are you in comparison to yesterday? Exactly. Look at that. Huh. Says they're live bait. If you can see, there is a platform over there near the rocks. This is where all the seals gather. Usually it's later on the day. That's where the seals gather. They bring some food, they bring some wine, they sit, they're having fun, enjoying the sun, letting all flow with ease. Sometimes they get eaten, unfortunately. But hello, almost Shabbat Shalom. Hello, hello, Julie. So this is really a nice place in Redondo. Yeah. So I want to share with you, to talk with you about flow. Flow. When we think about flow, I heard somebody talking about that, and it's more than just, oh, what do we do? The actions that we do, or let's flow, or when you want to meet somebody or you're planning on something, it says, oh, let it flow, how it flows. And usually when we say how it flows, it's we hope that it'll flow in the way that we envision it, or that we plan it, or that we want it. And the flow happens, but many times it doesn't flow to our direction or in the direction that we want it to flow. Look at this. It's beautiful. So flowing of perception, the flow of perception. So the portion of this week is the lives of Sarah, Chayei Sarrah. And it is known throughout the scriptures that Sarah was more than just pretty. She was beautiful. Everybody wanted her. The Egyptians, they took her. Then Avimelech, the king, they took her. And she was already like 9 years old. And she had the same appearance as 20 years old. So it says, starts the portion of the Torah that her life was 7 and 20 and 100 years when she passed, right? So it doesn't say 127, just says 7 and 20 and 100. And the commentators are talking about that at the age of 20, she had the purity of 7, and at the age of 100, she has the looks of a 20. So the question was asked is, the Torah and talking about spirituality and how do we continue in this place, and how do we prepare ourselves, and what do we accumulate? Why is the Torah focusing on the external, on the appearance, on the external appearance? The external appearance is okay, somebody comes with it, but for the Torah to mention that, or to specify it, or to dissect it in such a way, it's kind of like, but every word in the Torah, every letter is not by accident, and intended to be so. And so the focus of Sarah was never about her appearance. Her particular focus was always about the kindness and the generosity and the compassionate attributes. And so throughout the one commentator, Rashi, says that at the end of the portion, at the end of that verse, it says, and both of her lives were good. And he says that everybody who would look at her would say, oh, she had a great life. But she didn't really have a great life. She was abducted, taken by kings a couple of times. She didn't have children until later on, until she was like 90 something. And so she went through a lot of stuff. She didn't really have a great life. But from the outside, it may appear that she had a great life, first and foremost because of her appearance. So as appearance, many times an appearance of somebody or appearance of something, not necessarily of a person, but appearance of something, may appear to the outside world, to the outside person who is watching, that person has, the person has a good life. They look good. They live here. They have all this kind of thing. But from the inside, it's completely different. The inside is completely different. So that's one perception. So Sarah was focusing on the kindness and compassion between her and others, between her even and her husband, between her and her community. So when that is the focus, when the focus is on the quality of how we are with others, then it is okay also to say, hey, and she was also good looking, meaning she didn't focus only on her looks, she didn't focus on her external, she didn't focus on what appears to be, she didn't focus on what she desired only, but she focused on what is good for the others. So bringing it to here, it's interesting because many times we go around and we look at what is happening around us, and we have a perception. We have a belief. So first of all, we perceive, and then we believe it. So we perceive something to be in a certain way, and then we believe it. And many times we perceive something based on what we're familiar with, based on what we feel that is the case, based also on our experience. For example, somebody may look at something and choose to look the positive in a situation, and another person will perceive something as a negative. So we'll ask, well, why does this person perceive it as a positive, and why this person perceive it as a negative? And we will find that it has much to do with how the person came to be, like how the person grew up. What did the person experience throughout their life? Did the person experience disappointment? Did the person experience hardships? And you'll see that many times those who experience the most hardships, many times those who are more positive in the outlook. Why? Because that hardship brings us to a place of recognizing what is important, or what is in front of us, really. You know, not to say that people that are living easy life are not going through these things. But if we look at how the people around you, just look at people around you. I mean, I can't talk for the billions of people in the world, but look at people around us. Look at people that give, for example, outside, or look at small things like tipping. Yeah? Many times, those people who have experienced hardships are greater tippers. They're greater tips too, probably, but they're tippers. Right? It is something in that experience of this hardship that brings a person into recognizing, into seeing what's in front. And sometimes when we go into a spiral of me, I created this, oh, look at me, or I have this money, or I have that money, sometimes we lose touch of certain kind of a reality. So how is a perception flow? So when we talk about flow, there is this, sometimes there's this perception of flowing in the way that I want it, but when it gets stuck or it doesn't go in the way that we want it to, then sometimes somebody who is positive will say, oh, everything is happening for me. Everything is happening for the purpose of the good of my own journey. And somebody who is negative will say, why this is happening to me? So in the perception, there is also a flow, because we can see something in a certain way, and comes another person and shows us a different way of thinking about something. And then everything changes. And then we're like, wow, I didn't see it. I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it in this positive fashion. And that's a person that is coachable also, because a person that is coachable, that's what somebody asked me yesterday. What is a coachable person? I was like, a person that is coachable is somebody who can listen to another perception, listen to another point of view, and see, does that point of view have some meat to it, so to speak? Does that point of view come from a genuine place, a genuine looking at things, or does that point of view comes from a place that is biased, that is attached to that belief? So a perception has an attachment aspect to it, right? Perception has an attachment aspect to it, especially if I'm not willing or not wanting to change the way that I look at something. So if I have a way of being able to look at something and to say, oh, that's okay, that I could see that has a point, then that's a coachable person, because you can work with a person to see things that are different than what the person is saying. Now, the continuation of the portion, it says, these are the two lives of Sarah. Shnei Chayei Sarrah. I was like, wait, what? Shnei Chayei Sarrah. Saying that until she had a child was one part of her life, believing a certain thing, until her names changed also, because her name went from Sarai, ending with the 10th letter of the alphabet, to Sarah. It ended with the 5th letter of the alphabet, which is the letter of life, the letter of creation, the way that you pronounce hey is hey, just like you say, hey, how you doing? Hey, H-E-Y. So hey is the letter of life, because we come when we wake up, or when we are taking a deep breath after we didn't have a long time breath, or when a baby comes out of the world, it goes, right? And then when we leave this world, we go, right? So it's all an air. It's an air letter. And so it is it's also the feminine letter. So in Hebrew, usually a female's name ends with an a, with an hey. So that represents femininity, right? So before that, she had one life. It's considered to be one life. And then when she had the name change, that's also when she had a blessing, and she had Isaac eventually, and that was a second life. So it was like her lives. So there were two perceptions, living like a 90 to 99 with one perception, and then another perception. I mean, think about this, when we look at somebody who is that age, we never try to change their perception, because we say, oh, they're already 9 years old, or they're 7 years old, they're not going to change, or blah, 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 all this kind of thing. I don't always believe that, because it depends really on the person. It depends really on the person and their willingness to see things in a different way. And I feel that, I don't know, I don't feel that an age can lock somebody down from shifting and changing. I mean, if you look at Rabbi Akiva, he didn't know reading and writing and years old. So yeah, granted, 40 is not 70 or 80, but somebody who is 40 is kind of pretty much set in certain ways. And to change a perception, to change a way of being and a way of becoming, and to go through greater lengths after that says a lot about that person. One more point I want to talk about is that it says that Avraham Zaken Ba Bayamim, says that Abraham was old, coming in his days. Right? Zaken Ba Bayamim, an old person, physically, coming in his days. But no, I don't want that. Thank you. So there is a Baba Yamim. It's a common term in Hebrew, but there is a duality here. Why is it Zaken and Baba Yamim? Why is he okay? We know he's old, so why do you have to say Baba Yamim? And there is here to say that literally what it means that the days are following Abraham. So he has the old age, the physical, that although in his old age he still preserved certain things, certain qualities that were when he was younger. But then he says Baba Yamim, meaning all his days, what he did in his days come together with him, are standing together with him. So all the good deeds that he did are with him. When somebody is just not doing anything, and well, that's a really generalized term. But when somebody is, let's say, doing something, creating something, writing music, uh, doing, producing something, and brings it out, then that production is counted for by the person. It's counted for by the person, and that action, these activities, the days of that person are counted. Why? Because the days were used to do A, B, C, and D. But when somebody doesn't do that, then there is no accounting, there is no accountability or accounting of these days. And that's also with the perception. How do we look at something? What do we change? What do we change in how we are? Because when we see that something doesn't flow, when we see that something doesn't move forward or doesn't advance to a greater being, to a greater existence, then we feel stuck. Then we may feel stuck. So one thing to do is to change how we look at things. And how do we change on how to look at things? Sometimes we get stuck in our procrastination, is to actually do something, is to actually go out, is to actually go to the ocean. Why? Because even the colors of the ocean, blue and green, and all this is bringing to calmness and to be able to go inside. So flowing is not what do we do, and how do we get along, and how do we proceed in our day, and let's see if it flows. If it flows, we will meet. If it doesn't flow, we won't meet. But flowing is starting with us, starting inside. How do we allow ourselves to be liquidated, if we will? So let's liquidate. There are a lot of liquids behind me. I'm not going to jump in, but I'm taking in it a little bit more, and then I'm off to something else. So Shabbat Shalom, and I'll talk to you soon.